Welcome to News 9 Live, and you are watching a special broadcast on Bangladesh violence. Bangladesh is witnessing intense students-led protests across the country. Universities are ablaze, and half of the 64 districts have witnessed massive protests by these students. It has led to disruption of communication in the country. Thursday, too witnessed a nationwide shutdown. Friday was no different. Internet shutdown continues and more than 1,000 people have been injured in violent clashes. Government buildings and police stations were torched by the protesters. Students even torched the headquarters of the Bangladesh television. All protests and demonstrations have been banned by the government. Unrest gripped Bangladesh after anti-quota protests turned violent, resulting in at least 7 deaths and over 400 injuries. The Indian High Commission in Dhaka also issued an advisory for the Indians living in Bangladesh.
We have around 8,500 students and somewhere around 15,000 Indian nationals resident in the country. We have issued a travel advisory for people to be in touch with the High Commission and for us to render any assistance that they may need. External Affairs Minister is himself monitoring the situation. The High Commission will be giving regular updates on the situation there. We will also be giving regular updates, and we urge all family members of Indian nationals who reside in Bangladesh to be in touch, follow us for regular updates. We remain committed to provide all possible assistance to our nationals.
Looking at the continued violence, the Bangladesh government on Thursday expressed willingness to hold talks with the student protesters. Law Minister Anis Solak also requested the protesters to either end or suspend their protest. The protest began after a ruling by the Bangladesh High Court reinstating the 30% quota for the descendants of the freedom fighters in the government jobs. This had been repealed in 2018 following significant student and teacher agitation. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, by referring to the word Razakar in context to the protesters, added fuel to the fire. The students incorporated the word Razakar in their vocabulary, perhaps not realizing what Razakars stood for in the country in 1971, because they fought with the Pakistani forces, which led to millions dying in Bangladesh. Eerily, Razakars, anyone familiar with Indian history would understand, before Operation Polo, organized by Home Minister Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel on the orders of the Nawab of Hyderabad, killed hundreds of Indians. So Razakar is a word which resounds very strongly and in a very polarizing way in the Indian subcontinent. And in Bangladesh, more so. Sheikh Hasina is the inheritor of Mujibur Rahman's legacy. She barely escaped the assassination that killed Mujib. Now Bangladesh is in turmoil. As I said, she barely survived Mujib's assassination. Islamic hardliners have a constituency in Bangladesh. Sheikh Hasina wants to continue with the quota, and these are some of the historical images I'm playing on my screen. But unrest in half of the Bangladesh has taken on Sheikh Hasina, an India-friendly Prime Minister. So it has a political dimension. It has a subcontinental dimension. How is this going to impact the wider arc of nations? Now, Bangladesh ruling party has been blamed by BNP for the chaos. Dhaka police has raided party's headquarters. Police has arrested a number of people. Some of their party activists have been taken into custody. Police says that the detectives found 100 crude bombs, 500 wooden and bamboo sticks, and 5 to 6 bottles of gasoline in the raid. These protests pose a significant challenge to the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government, the first since she won the 4th consecutive term in January in an election boycotted by the opposition. Hasina has also made a lot of promises, but without wasting more time, let me straight away go to Ambassador Veena Sikri, former High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh. Madam, my first question to you is, why did Sheikh Hasina lose control of the streets?
Well, actually, I must say that in 2018, when the students' protests first came on the streets, and that time Sheikh Hasina was also the Prime Minister, it was Sheikh Hasina's government who actually scrapped the entire reservation system. She supported the students at that time and said that she scrapped the reservation system. There was an appeal, there was a case filed in the High Court, and the decision of the High Court case, as you have noted, came last month in June, saying that the Sheikh Hasina government was wrong in scrapping the reservations for students entering the BCS, Bangladesh Civil Service, and that it should be reinstated. Now, that case is still ongoing because the Supreme Court is now looking at it. There is a stay on the High Court decision, and on August 7th, the Supreme Court will be giving its verdict. So, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, in the beginning of the second round of agitations, which began after the High Court reinstated the quota, Sheikh Hasina kept saying that, look, please wait for August 7th. There will be a Supreme Court decision, and the Supreme Court decision will favor everybody, will please everybody. There will be no difficulty. We must recall that the students in Bangladesh never asked for scrapping the quota. They always asked for reform of the quotas. So the issue in Bangladesh has been a reform. That means perhaps reducing the number of percentages given to the children of freedom fighters, and in any case, the overall quotas available for entering the Bangladesh civil service had gone up as high as 56%. So only 44% of the open seats available for the general category. So the students were asking for a reform, and Prime Minister was talking to them about it. I think it's also, we must recognize that it's probably the political connotations given to the word Razakar, as you have mentioned. This is what seems to have, number one, sparked off increased demonstrations by the students, but it seems that there could also be at this time some political infiltration, maybe, as you mentioned, the BNP, maybe the Shibir, which is the students' wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami, and in response to that, we had the students' wing of the Awami League, Bangladesh Chhatra League, coming onto the streets as well. I think this moment of intense clashes has led to the maximum number of deaths, which range from, the numbers mentioned range from 32 to 40 and above. So I think that this is the important point, that this sudden spurt over the last few days, and now Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has announced that a dialogue. She has appointed two ministers, the law minister and the education minister, to lead the dialogue with the students and to find a solution which would bring them off the street. There's also very clear that the army would have been called in, I think, last night to stop the violent protests. And as of this morning, the streets are clear in Dhaka. There is a ban by the Dhaka Metropolitan Police on any kind of demonstration or get-togethers. And although there have been some clashes in suburbs of Dhaka like Uttara and other places, by and large, the situation seems to have calmed down a bit today. But we have to wait and see whether this calm situation will persist and whether the dialogue with between the students and the government will start. So I think that We have to recognize that the students in Bangladesh have always played a very important role right from the time of the 1971 war, when young people, teenagers or in their early 20s, who en masse decided to fight the genocide being enforced by the Pakistanis and came on the streets.
But madam, what does it mean for India if Sheikh Hasina gets destabilized and BNP gets empowered? It has serious implication for India. So for a viewer, could you just take us through what does it mean if you do not have Sheikh Hasina in Dhaka?
I think we must, of course, accept and we know that the relationship between Bangladesh and India is very good indeed. It's a model relationship in South Asia. I think it's a good reflection of India's neighborhood first foreign policy. The rapport between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is tremendous. And only recently, in the third week of June this year, they adopted a very good shared vision document looking at the future of the cooperation between India and Bangladesh. Of course, the BNP is a major opposition party in Bangladesh, and in the recent elections where Sheikh Hasina got re-elected for the fourth consecutive terms, the BNP did not take part. Now, I think they possibly regretted not taking part because, it is their fault, their decision they did not take part. And now they may be trying to incite the situation to regain some of the relevance of their relevance, their continued relevance in the political scenario in Bangladesh. As far as India is concerned, this students' issue is an internal matter for Bangladesh. The students are Bangladeshi. The quota reform or the quota abolition, this is a Bangladeshi government decision, and the reinstatement or the lack of it of this quota reform system is entirely their concern. But of course, we are very worried by the violence in Bangladesh, and our government and the High Commission have issued an advisory for the Indian national to be very careful. But in the future, we will be continuing to watch. We want Bangladesh to be peaceful, prosperous, and stable.
And let me share more information with our viewers. As I said, these protests pose a significant challenge to Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government. The first since she has won her fourth consecutive term in January in an election boycotted by the opposition BNP. Hasina has promised to set up a judicial panel to investigate the deaths caused by police firing, bullets and tear gas. She has promised justice. She also mentioned that the Supreme Court would hear the government's appeal against a High Court verdict reinstating 30% reservation for war veterans' families on August 7. Hasina has asked the students to be patient until issue is resolved both judicially and politically. Look at the streets of Dhaka. These are the streets of Dhaka. The entire country is destabilized, universities are shut, and what we witness is tip of the iceberg. I mean, you touched upon the subject, but it's pretty disturbing for any Indians. Students have taken over Razakars. Words can be appropriated if you. It's like Che Guevara being appropriated by pop culture in America, or a strand of the Indian politics in Punjab. They have appropriated Bhindranwale, and you find those T-shirts. But then this is a hardline Islamic constituency in Bangladesh, which continues even today, and Bangladesh has had a history of a rule by an army general. Can scenario change in a democratic Bangladesh, madam?
I think that I personally do not see any threat to Sheikh Hasina, but the prospect of instability, the prospect of violence is daunting for Sheikh Hasina's government itself, for the people of Bangladesh, and certainly for a close neighbor like India, which shares a 4,000-kilometer border with Bangladesh. And I must say that we must clarify on the situation of the Razakar. The students have taken it to mean as though they are being described as Razakar. But the statement that Sheikh Hasina made in that press conference was more in terms of sarcasm that, of course, the government will give reservation only to the children of freedom fighters. They're not going to give reservation, let us say, to the children of Razakar. So this has been totally politicized and taken on as a direct confrontation by the Razakars with Sheikh Hasina's government. We do know that Sheikh Hasina herself has, during the fourth consecutive government, has taken strong action against the participants who supported Pakistan in the liberation war. She has held war crime trials. The people have been identified who were the supporters of the Pakistan genocide, and a lot of them have received the ultimate punishment of death. So I think that her credentials as far as support for the liberation war of Bangladesh are concerned, those credentials are impeccable. But the politicization, the violence on the streets, this is an ever-present danger, because the role of students in Bangladesh has always been very sensitive and very important. And the Prime Minister will want to calm this down as soon as possible, and to prevent any effort to incite the students and to politicize this demonstration in the name of Razakars. The BNP has been trying. We do know that the BNP leadership itself is very weak. Former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia is...
Madam, this is the moot question which I wanted to ask you. This is the moot political questions which every Indian would want to know. Because when we talk about Mujibur Rahman, you will talk about Indira Gandhi. When we talk about Mujibur Rahman, we will have to talk about the Mukti Bahini. We will have to talk about the role which India played. I think something which every Indian understands. Will it enable Khaleda Zia politically, who has been anti-India in context of our foreign policy, our outlook, our national interest?
Yes, as I was saying, the BNP is trying very hard to get itself into this, to make itself relevant once again, and to let it be seen that they are leading the demonstration against Sheikh Hasina government. They've always wanted such a mass movement to happen. They hope that it would have happened immediately after the election result. Nothing happened. It was all peace and quiet. They are now trying to convert this demonstration on quotas into a political support for themselves. All this is being for the BNP. All this is being manipulated by Tariq Rahman, who is the son of Prime Minister Khaleda Zia, but he lives in London. He's been in London for the last 15 years. And it's very difficult, I think, for him to lead the situation. I think the Jamaat-e-Islami and the Shibir, the students wing of the Jamaat, they are a much more of a present danger and ever-present danger in Bangladesh in terms of inciting the people. And I can see from some of your visuals that some of, it looks like that some of the Jamaat-e-Islami people are indeed on the streets.
Madam, let me take you through some of the details. Out of 64 districts, Madam, out of 64 districts, half of the districts have seen violence there. The telecommunication has been shut down. Internet has been shut down. We were able to communicate yesterday with number of people in Dhaka, but today have not been able to get across people except landlines. So they have actually shut down communication or the data communication in entire Bangladesh. That's number one. And the second, the most important thing is, a fresh round of violence was also reported on Friday. So it means that the things have not calmed down. Reports have not come from the rural areas. We have got pictures from urban areas and 6 big universities like Chittagong University or the Dhaka University. And most of these protests are spontaneous, though it has been claimed that the BNP cadres are behind it. There have been raids. Police have said that we discovered some bombs and some other material, gasoline, other things. But the fact of the matter is, for so many students to come out and claim a word which is so historically, I would say, contested, and if anyone reads about it, would never associate oneself with the Razakar, they have appropriated it. Just goes on to show maybe Sheikh Hasina just didn't fathom the issue with the 30% quota.
I think on the 30% quota, you're right. I mean, it's a question of handling the situation because, as I said, she herself had withdrawn
But do you
that
think, is
quota.
it correct, madam? You have served in Bangladesh. I just want to know your thoughts, We also remember, we also gave special services to who fought in 1952 with Gandhiji, quit India, 47. But this is something exemplary, I have not seen, I have not come across any such example in any country where the descendants get a quota of those who participated in freedom struggle.
Well, in each country, the conditions are very special. I think quotas, affirmative action, even in the US, there's affirmative action on many issues, and that the whole issue of diversity is addressed very strongly even in the US. But every country has a system of supporting those people who have played a role either in the independence of the country or those people who have been marginalized, and now we want to bring them back into the mainstream, give them reservations and quotas, whether in education institutions or in government service and so on. So every country has its own special, unique features, and I think in Bangladesh it is very clear that the freedom struggle, the liberation war of 1971 occupies a very, very special space. And I must say that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, during her last consecutive 4 terms, has played a big role, not only in reviving, strengthening the respect for the liberation war and for those who participated in it, and also for India's role in it. All the time that there were military dictators, there were 2 military dictators in Bangladesh, General Zia-ul-Rahman and President Ershad, and each of them, were quite, I would say, okay with turning a blind eye to India's role or in casting aspersions even on India's role. But it is Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina who has set the record straight, who has set the history book straight, and so in that sense she is very much committed to the liberation war. Now, if you say that yes, Bangladesh has a huge population and more people are getting higher education, and when they get higher education, they want jobs, and joblessness amongst youth is certainly a factor that would have played into the strong participation in this. In these protests, because there is a very high rate of joblessness among youth, and it's been talked about a lot by all economists in Bangladesh, where there is jobless growth. There is growth. Bangladesh economy is doing very well. They're growing 5 to 6% a year, which is remarkable, and it has been consistently so under each of the 4 consecutive terms of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. But despite this growth of 5 to 6%, the large number of university graduates are unable to find jobs. They are disappointed. So this is a factor which is played into this. Now, all said and done, the dialogue has to take place between the government and the students, and I'm very sure, confident that this will lead to equally happy decisions for both sides.
But madam, as a journalist, I find very surprising that from Malé to Islamabad to Dhaka, you have Islamists on the street. The Malé, we have an anti-India government. You have a lot of anti-India people on streets in Dhaka. You had parties like Tehreek-e-Labbaik, which powered Imran Khan, though his party can get banned. I would say thank you, madam, for joining me. But it is indeed a cause of great concern for India, not only in context of Sheikh Hasina, but the elements which have overtaken protests in Bangladesh. It can be internally debated, peacefully resolved, but the fact of the matter is that the Bangladesh is pretty divided today. The students are out, the army is out, security forces are out, and the word Razakar has been appropriated. Something that many people don't understand, that they were involved with the Pakistani army, which led to thousands of Bangladeshis being killed, who were fighting for the freedom struggle, which was supported by India, which was supported by Indian government, to realize the Bengali dream, Sonar Bangla, which was opposed by the Islamists. And in today's street protest, you have Islamists trying to take an upper hand. And this issue needs to be resolved politically, quickly, and as soon as the government can. These are the latest visuals which we are showing you from Bangladesh. This is the ground zero, Bangladesh.
Hey, careful, huh? My daddy got it from abroad. Hey,